Number 10. The third eye. You know that feeling when someone is staring at you from behind? The one that makes the hairs on your neck stand up? Well, a long, long time ago, that feeling might have been less of a spooky sixth sense and more of a literal third eye. I'm not talking about some new age spiritual thing. I'm talking about a real, honest-to-goodness photoreceptive organ on the top of our ancestors' heads. Back when our very distant relatives were scaly, swimming vertebrates, they had what's called a parietal eye. It was basically a tiny light-sensing organ that sat right between their other two eyes. It couldn't see the world in high-definition 4K, but it was excellent at telling the difference between light and shadow. Imagine having a built-in alarm that could sense a predator's shadow passing overhead. It was a perfect tool for survival. Evolution eventually decided we didn't need it anymore. It's probably because we developed a better set of eyes and a neck that could actually turn. The third eye didn't just vanish, though. It evolved, getting pulled deeper into the brain and transforming into what we now know as the pineal gland. This gland is super important. It produces melatonin, the hormone that controls your sleep cycle. So every time you get tired at night, you can thank the remnants of your ancient lizard-like third eye for helping you get some sleep. It's basically a tiny internal sun sensor that used to warn you of danger, and now just tells you when it's bedtime. Number 9. The vomeronasal organ. Have you ever walked into a room and just felt off? Maybe you can't put your finger on it, but something in the air feels weird. We think we only rely on our noses to smell, but we used to have a whole other organ dedicated to sniffing out things we didn't even know we were smelling. It's called the vomeronasal organ, or VNO, and it's a tiny chemosensory organ located inside your nose, close to the nasal septum. In many animals, like cats and snakes, this organ is a big deal. They use it to detect pheromones, those invisible chemical signals that can tell them everything from "I'm a viable mate" to "I'm a dangerous predator." It's how snakes taste the air with their tongues, and why your cat suddenly freezes and makes that weird gaping mouth face. For our ancestors, it was like having a personal drama detector, silently reading the emotional and reproductive state of every creature around them. It was a powerful tool for survival and social cues. Humans still have the VNO, but it's a little like a dusty old phone booth in the corner of your brain. It's mostly just a vestigial structure that's no longer connected to the network. You might still have the organ, but it's largely non-functional. Basically, you're walking around with a secret, unused superpower that could have told you if your boss was having a bad day based on their scent alone, but now it's just a ghost of a biological app that's no longer supported by the latest firmware. Number 8. The tail. Okay, this one is pretty obvious. We've all seen a monkey with a tail, but have you ever thought about how weird it is that we don't have one? For our distant ancestors, the tail was an absolute game changer. It was the original Swiss Army knife of body parts. A prehensile tail was an extra limb for gripping branches, perfect for navigating the dense canopies of ancient forests. It was also an invaluable tool for balance, a counterbalance to our body that made walking on narrow tree limbs as easy as walking down a sidewalk. Think of it as a biological counterweight, a built-in gyroscopic stabilizer. Over millions of years, as our ancestors started spending more time on the ground and began walking upright, the tail became less and less useful. It slowly shrank and was absorbed back into our bodies. What's left of it is the coccyx, or tailbone, a tiny, fused-together remnant at the base of your spine. It's an elegant piece of evolutionary recycling, a bony punctuation mark at the end of your vertebral column. But what's truly bizarre is that in rare cases, a human fetus will develop a fully formed tail in the womb. These tails are typically benign and are removed shortly after birth. So the next time you feel a little wobbly, maybe you're just experiencing the phantom limb sensation of a tail you lost millions of years ago, a ghostly limb that your ancient self would have used to swing through the trees. Number 7. The Darwin's tubercle. Have you ever looked closely at your ear? I mean, really closely. Most people don't think much about them, but some of you might have a tiny, almost unnoticeable bump on the folded rim of your ear, right at the top. This little nubbin is called Darwin's tubercle. It's named after Charles Darwin, who theorized it was a remnant of a larger pointy ear tip that our ancestors used to have. Think of the ears on a monkey, with those sharp, pointed tops. Our ancestors had those, and this tiny little bump is all that's left. It's a classic example of a vestigial structure, a part of the body that has become useless through evolution. Why did we lose the pointy ears? Well, pointy ears were great for hearing faint sounds in the jungle, like a predator rustling in the leaves. But as we moved out of the trees and started using our brains more than our ears, they became unnecessary. Plus, who needs pointy ears when you have a frontal lobe capable of inventing an app that makes pointy ear filters for your selfies? About 10 to 20% of the population still has this little bump. If you have it, you're basically walking around with a tiny biological reminder of your inner monkey. It's a silent, weird little trophy from a time when your ears were just as important as your hands. Number 6, the palmaris longus muscle. Hold your arm out straight, palm up. Now, touch your thumb to your pinky finger. See that little tendon that pops up on the underside of your wrist? That's your palmaris longus muscle. And for a good chunk of the population, it's not even there. About 14% of people are born without it, and guess what? They're doing just fine. This muscle was super important for our tree-dwelling ancestors. It helped them grip branches and swing from tree to tree like a furry Tarzan. It gave them a stronger grip for hanging on for dear life. But as we started walking on 2 feet and stopped using our arms to swing around, this muscle became less and less important. Now it's basically just taking up space. It's so useless that surgeons often use it for reconstructive surgery when they need a tendon graft. They'll just take it right out, and your body won't even notice it's gone. It's a freebie, a bonus tendon. So if you don't have it, don't worry. You haven't lost anything important. And if you do have it, you're just carrying around an extra muscle that serves no purpose other than to remind you that your ancestors were probably better at climbing trees than you are. Number 5, the third eyelid. You know that little pink bit of skin in the inner corner of your eye? The one that looks a little like a tiny, fleshy triangle? That's the plica semilunaris, and it's all that's left of your third eyelid. Many animals, especially birds, reptiles, and sharks, have a nictitating membrane. It's basically a translucent eyelid that slides horizontally across the eye to protect it and keep it clean, all while still allowing them to see. It's like a built-in pair of goggles. Imagine being able to blink and see at the same time, perfect for hunting underwater or in a dust storm. Our ancestors probably had a fully functional one too. But for some reason, evolution decided that a third eyelid was overkill for us. We had tear ducts to keep our eyes clean, and our 2 main eyelids were more than enough for protection. So it slowly started to shrink and fade away, leaving us with that tiny, useless bump in the corner of our eye. It's a literal vestige of a time when we needed a little extra protection from the elements, a useless souvenir from our reptile days. The next time you feel a bit of grit in your eye, just remember that you used to have a full-on windshield wiper for that exact problem, and now you have to rely on your fingers and a bottle of eye drops. Number 4, the extensor coccygeus. Imagine you're a dog and you're super excited to see your owner. What's the first thing you do? You wag your tail, of course. Well, our ancestors could do that too. Our long-lost tail wasn't just for balance and climbing, it was for communication. And to move that tail around, they had a special muscle called the extensor coccygeus. It was a muscle attached to the very end of our spine, designed specifically to wag and move the tail. But, as we mentioned earlier, the tail became a little out of fashion. We started walking upright, we developed spoken language, and the tail wagging as a social signal became a useless skill. But the muscle didn't completely disappear. Like a forgotten relic, a tiny piece of the extensor coccygeus muscle still exists in some people, a small fibrous remnant at the very end of the coccyx. It's a non-functional leftover, a ghost muscle that serves no purpose other than to remind us that we used to have a very expressive butt. The next time you see a dog wag its tail, just remember that somewhere deep inside you, there's a tiny, useless muscle that used to do the same exact thing. It's like having a rotary phone dial inside your smartphone. It's a weird, useless piece of history that's still hanging around. Number 3, the caudal artery. Your body is a network of blood vessels, and every single one of them is there for a reason. So it's weird to think that some of them are just not needed anymore. One of those is the caudal artery, a major blood vessel that used to run all the way down our tail. It provided blood to the muscles and tissues of the tail, keeping it healthy and alive. But when the tail started to disappear, so did the need for a major artery to supply it with blood. So the caudal artery simply faded away, a casualty of evolution's ruthless efficiency. But for a brief moment in time, when you were a developing fetus, you had a caudal artery. It's a fascinating glimpse into our own evolutionary history. For a little while, your developing body was building a full-on tail with all the necessary plumbing, only to stop halfway through the process. It's like your body started to build a car with a third wheel, only to realize it wasn't needed and just left the axle hanging there. This ghost artery is another example of how our bodies, even in their most intricate and complex stages, are still carrying around the blueprints of our deep, ancient past. Number 2, the pharyngeal slits. Okay, this one is going to sound absolutely wild, but bear with me. At one point in our development, we had gills. Not functional gills, of course, but the structures that would have become gills in a fish. In a very early stage of embryonic development, every single human fetus has a series of pouches and grooves in the neck region. These are called pharyngeal slits. In fish, these slits develop into gills, perfect for extracting oxygen from water. In humans, they transform into parts of our jaw, the inner ear, and our larynx. It's a literal physical reminder that at some point, a very, very long time ago, our ancestors were fish. Think about that for a second. The delicate bones in your middle ear that let you hear the world around you are, evolutionarily speaking, the same bits and pieces that would have helped a fish breathe. So the next time you're listening to your favorite song, you're doing it with structures that were originally meant to help you survive underwater. It's a powerful reminder that our connection to the rest of the animal kingdom isn't just metaphorical. It's literally written into our DNA and our very own bodies. Number 1, the epiglottis for breathing underwater. We've already established that our ancestors were fish and they had gills, but how did they breathe before they had lungs? Well, some ancient creatures had a little something extra on their epiglottis. The epiglottis is that little flap of cartilage in your throat that stops food from going down your windpipe. In many ancient creatures, this epiglottis had an extra part, a little flap that could be used to breathe underwater. It was a kind of a secondary breathing apparatus that was perfect for creatures that were just starting to make the transition from water to land. It was a kind of an airlock for the throat, allowing them to take in air from the water and expel it without choking. This extra flap eventually faded away as our ancestors became more and more terrestrial, and we developed a more efficient set of lungs. The epiglottis we have today is a simplified, streamlined version of that original model, a single-purpose piece of cartilage that only serves to stop you from choking on your food. It's a good thing, too. Imagine if you still had that extra flap of cartilage and it went wrong. You'd probably spend half your life choking on water every time you tried to drink a glass. It's another great example of how evolution simplifies and streamlines things, removing the useless parts and leaving us with only what we need.